Welcome into the fantasy draft room. Coming back to y'all again with another Underdog little board live draft here. A little bit late night, way too early for the 2024 season, but these drafts are already kicking off and we got to bring them all to you. We have done already a couple of these on the show already, but we're going to kick back off another one here. And we're in the perfect spot, honestly, if we're looking at this one. Puka Nacua being our thumbnail for the graphic, what we made for this one, and we're in the perfect spot to take him. So honestly, just by terms of the graphic, if Puka Nacua does fall to here at 9 overall, where we ended up in this draft, 9.3 on the board in ADP, I think we got to just do it for the thumbnail. Take that Puka Nacua at the 9 pick if he does fall to us here. We got a couple picks in front of us until that does happen. First off the board, it is going to be pretty chalk, except for the wide receiver one is honestly a little bit surprising. Wide receiver one last year on the year, Christian McCaffrey, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Breece Hall. One more pick until we're up on the clock, and it does fall perfectly to us. As the graphic decided for us, it's going to be Puka Nacua. Can't do anything else. Got to do it for the thumbnail here. And we're going to be on a pretty quick turn here, going off at the 9 spot and then going back up in 6 picks once the turn goes back to us. Let's see where we're going to pick here once it does come back. We got Jahmyr Gibbs, Garrett Wilson, Kyron Williams, Jonathan Taylor. And then those are the 4 picks that I really think turns until you take another tier break here. So that's one of the 4 that I'm looking for. Unfortunately, we do see Jahmyr Gibbs at the 111. Typically, you don't see one of these Garrett Wilson, Kyron, JT fall all the way to this pick, but there is another player a little bit further down the board that I do think is actually being a little bit undervalued, and that actually was the 110 that just came off the board right after me that I didn't even see at that point yet, and that was AJ Brown. Did think his ADP was a little bit undervalued here in the early parts of the early draft season for Underdog drafts. Good to see that his ADP is going up a little bit, but unfortunately means that we can't pick him here. So what it does mean for us, though, is that we've got 2 picks left. Can't be Kyron Williams, can't be Jonathan Taylor, because I do want one of those 2 to pair up with Puka Nacua to be my wide receiver 1 and running back 1. Otherwise, we have a little bit harder of a choice to make if we want to reach on a Nico Collins, a DJ Moore. I think those are a little bit overpriced for what they are, but we do see Nico Collins go, which means we don't have to make that overreaching pick. It is Kyron Williams off the board next, leaving us a Jonathan Taylor pick. I've already done a build similar to this in the little board, which means it's a little bit, kind of forcing a hand a little bit, forcing the same draft strategy that we've already done in the past, but can't go away from the value that I think sits here with Jonathan Taylor being our running back anchor paired alongside of Puka Nacua to be the wide receiver anchor either. I really do like this startup. Honestly, I think I've done it, like I said, the exact same way before. And I really like this startup. You've got the anchor running back. You've got Puka Nacua coming back with a late round quarterback that you can nab in Matthew Stafford to stack with the Puka Nacua pick. Really like how this startup plays out for the longevity of the entire draft. If you want to go with the way that we've been really attacking these boards on the fantasy draft room so far, which is a late round quarterback strategy. I know I put out there on the X or the Twitterverse a little bit earlier that I did have one of those slow drafts that played out a little bit differently, where I did take a Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews stack. But if you're going to give me the stack that I compare with the later quarterbacks, I do think that allows us the ability to pair up a little bit with the higher wide receivers, higher running backs on the board, and then take that value where it falls to us, where I think Matthew Stafford could still be a back-end QB1 on the year. Really like how these type of strategies lay out whenever you're really starting to look even this early into a late round quarterback strategy, like what we're seeing so far. But let's get up and let's see where we're going to be picking at with the 3 pick, and that's going to be 33 overall, 309 off the board. And this is where, again, I really like to hammer home the wide receivers early here. If I can get probably 4 wide receivers in the first 6 rounds of these drafts, that's really where I like to attack, because then I really like to see where the running backs fall through that wide or through the rounds 7 through 9. Love stacking some of those old veteran running backs that people are fading a little bit more, that I think can still perform at a running back 1 overall level as well. So we got about 6 picks here. Let's look at the board. Let's see where we're going. Probably just going to take immediately off the board quarterback and tight end. don't think that you should be taking either of those single onesie positions this high up the board. So let's see where we're going with the running back, with the wide receivers. And the board's telling us the same thing that I'm kind of thinking of with pushing all these wide receivers up the board as well. We're going to be looking at that Debo. I'm just going to go down the board here, start highlighting some of them. Debo, Tank Dell. I think that's a little bit overpriced as well, just like the Nico Collins price is overpriced. I think almost all, except for Dalton Schultz and Devin Singletary, on the Texans offense is a little bit overpriced at this point in the offseason. So I'm going to be looking more in this DK Metcalf, Mike Evans, Jalen Waddle range. And truthfully, if I had my pick, it would sit pretty easily between the DK Metcalf or the Mike Evans pick if that falls to me here at 33. Last couple of picks off the board, just to do a recap for anybody who's trying to follow along with the whole thing. Saquon, Ayuk, Adams, Diggs, Pittman, Olave, Higgins, Debo, Tank Dell, all of these wide receivers flying, and that leaves 3 picks in between me and my next pick of what I'm hoping is a DK Metcalf or Mike Evans fall. We've got one more pick with Chowder up right before us. Let's hope it's not that Mike Evans pick, and let's see what we get. Sam Laporta reaching on the tight end 1 overall. I understand the upside of the rookie, but I think the difference between him and a lot of the other tight ends, even like tight end 8, isn't that much of a drastic difference. I've had a lot of teams with Mike Evans so far in these little board drafts, way too early, Underdog 2024 drafts, but I'll lean back into it and I'll just have a little bit overexposure here. We'll take another Mike Evans to pair with Puka Nacua and Jonathan Taylor through 3 rounds, and that's going to make us have this another turn pick to see where we want to go again. Let's look at the board. Let's see if we want to go back into that running back or that wide receiver. Here's where I'm really fine going into that Jalen Waddle. Pacheco's a little bit over for me. Devonta Smith is another one that I really like. Rashad White, Cooper Kupp. If we want to go for a massive Los Angeles Rams stack, we could go back into a Cooper Kupp as well. And then Drake London I actually do really like as well with the new offense, with the unknown that is at quarterback yet. Now, there's a lot of links to Justin Fields and a lot of other people that could potentially go there. I'm not really on the board of a Justin Fields going there, and I don't think it'd really be good for any of the pass-catching weapons. I know it was good for DJ Moore, but once you add in a Bijan Robinson and Kyle Pitts and then potentially something else going in as a wide receiver too as well, not really on that upside, but I do think the upside in the offense still holds true. Coming up here, honestly, I think we're going to do it. I think we just lean in massively to this Los Angeles Rams stack. I'm going to do it, and we're going to just go with a Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua right off the top of the board, be looking for a Matthew Stafford. I'm already going to put him in the queue this early on, all the way down here at pick 128 in the ADP. I don't even care. Like we're just leaning into this stack heavily. Might even pick up a Davis Allen, who's apparently probably going to be the tight end 1 currently on the roster as it stands right now. Does that hold throughout the rest of the year? No, but that'd be a round 20 pick. We're looking way off into the distance here. Recapping a little bit of those wide receivers that did go in front of us as well is that Waddle, Neighbors, Smitty, London, Amari Cooper was the one reach that might have been able to snipe us there on a Cooper Kupp pick. And we don't get that instead. And then Jaden Reed, Lamar Jackson to fill out. And I do believe if we go over to the big board, that's going to be your first 2 quarterbacks off the board. Yeah, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, followed up by the Jalen Hurts. Next pick off the board is going to be your top 3 quarterbacks within the first 4 rounds. Again, still a little bit heavy for me. I could easily just as well go into a Patrick Mahomes. I could easily just as well go into a guy like Jalen or the Jalen Hurts that you just saw come off the board here. But I'm fine all the way up until like an Anthony Richardson, I think holds about as much upside as any of these guys. Josh Allen would still be my 1, but that ADP of that 2-3 turn is just a little bit too high for me. So I'm fine punting here, going 3 wide receivers immediately off the board, along with the Jonathan Taylor to give me Puka Nacua, Mike Evans, and Cooper Kupp. Like how this one is playing out so far. And now we just get to sit back, watch the picks come off the board. Pacheco and then Kelsey all the way back up. That is a massive jump from what I believe his ADP was coming off the board. Let's see if we can pull that one up. See where his ADP is. 42 overall. I guess it's not too far off. Actually, a little bit underpriced of the ADP. But I figured it'd be a little bit lower until we saw the basically confirmation from Kelsey saying that he's going to come back, try to continue this dynasty that this Kansas City Chiefs team is on. There was all of that conversation about would he retire with his brother? Would they try to go into the Hall of Fame together? could potentially have happened, but from all accounts of the Chiefs coming out of that Super Bowl win, Travis Kelce will be back. So good to see him here, still up at the tight end 2 overall, then quickly followed up by Trey McBride as well. And then Anthony Richardson, QB4 off the board, like I was saying, with that upside that I do think A-Rich holds. Interesting to see that you still got Patrick Mahomes, probably the best quarterback overall in the league, still on the board here in the middle of the 4th round, turning into the 5th round now, as we see him go Anthony Richardson and Kenneth Walker off the boards. I'm going to sit back here a little bit, see where we're looking at picking. Coming up here at the 57th overall pick, I'm still not really looking into the quarterback position, but if a Patrick Mahomes sits there, I might try to pair a Patrick Mahomes and a Matthew Stafford way later in this draft and just have 2 what I consider locked and loaded picks. But unfortunately, as I'm talking through that strategy, Patrick Mahomes does come off the board quickly following the Rome Odunze pick, who I can understand the rookie upside, but I'm typically not going to lean into the rookies this early until we see some more of those landing spots, the draft capital. Not that I'm questioning the draft capital that those guys will have, but it feels like a little bit of a reach. But then you put them next to Zay Flowers, Terry McLaurin, may not be all that bad. Honestly, once we go here, we're looking pretty bleak at the wide receiver. So I'm glad I've already picked my 3. And I think I'm going to lean back into the running back room. And that would either be with Rachaad White, Alvin Kamara, or Derrick Henry. I could go into the wide receivers with Ridley, George Pickens, Christian Kirk, but I don't like that tier as much. So I'm going to lean back into the running backs. And then it's just a question of Rachaad White, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry with the unknowns. Alvin Kamara, I do think is locked in, but I've already taken him. So last seconds on the clock, we're going to go with Rachaad White, mix it up a little bit. I think this is my first Rachaad White share on the little board drafts. And I do think that he pairs up well with the Jonathan Taylor. Obviously, they don't have much behind Rachaad White in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense right now. Could be a position that they address in the offseason, because if Rachaad White ever went down, you're not going to turn this ball over to a Chase Edmonds, who I don't even know if he's going to be on the roster next year. I mean, they have absolutely nothing else other than Rachaad White, and thankfully he was able to stay healthy in 2023. Could that happen in 2024, and could he be the main guy? Pretty easily, but I do think that's a potential spot for them to address in a little bit of the backup role, even if Rachaad White is still the clear lead running back for them, because he really wasn't even that efficient on the ground. He just caught a hell of a lot of passes. I think over 90% of his targets were caught, which even for a running back is extremely outlandish and probably not repeatable. And the yards per reception was pretty high up as well. So probably a little bit of regression inbound for Rachaad White, but don't think it's a bad price here at the 5.9. We've got the turn coming back to us, and then it's back to that same old question of running back or wide receiver. The quarterbacks that we could pick in here in this range: Burrow, Prescott, Fields. I still have questions about if he's even going to be a starter, because the options are getting pretty limited if you look at it from what you think the rookies could fill in, what you think the free agents could fill in the quarterback market. So I'm not going to go there yet at this point. Tight end, if you pull that one up, Kittle and Kincaid, I don't see much difference between them and the Evan Ingram, David Njoku range, so I'm going to stay away from the tight end as well. And that's going to allow me to go back into either this running back or wide receiver range. And if I'm going to stay true to what I said, we're looking at these 4 or 5 running backs inside of this, or 4 or 5 wide receivers inside of the top 6 to 7 rounds. And so I'm going to do it. I'm going to go with a guy that I don't necessarily like as much, and that's going to be with George Pickens. I think that upside still does sit there, even though I'm not as high on him as a lot of other people are. I do think that George Pickens has that big play upside if they do something other than Kenny Pickett, than Mason Rudolph, who's already kind of asking out. They already cut Mitch Trubisky. We don't know what this position is going to bring for the team. Could be a Ryan Tannehill that comes in, but I think this offense is going to be at least more efficient this year than it was in the past. As much as people hate Arthur Smith, he does typically run a highly efficient offense. It's just his usage that a lot of people had issues with whenever he wasn't using the weapons that were given to him. I think that tends to lean a little bit differently whenever he's back to just being an offensive coordinator role. So I do actually have a little bit more upside hope with George Pickens in 2024 than I've had in his rookie or sophomore years. So I'm happy with the upside there, and with the wide receiver room as it's really built out here with Nakua, Evans, Kupp, and Pickens, followed up with the running back room of Jonathan Taylor and Rachaad White to really be my anchors here. And then we're just going to take a little bit of a break on the backside as we see these picks come off the board. Looking forward to the pick coming up here at the 81 overall, 709. We'll take a little bit of a break, put a banner up, take a drink, and we'll just chill back and relax as we wait for these couple of picks to roll off until we figure out what we need to do with this 7th round pick. All right, let's see how many we have until we're back up. We got about 8 picks still until we really get there. Look, this is where we kind of also want to start looking into what do the people around us have, like especially in that turn. Let's look at that as we kind of go into these last couple of picks before we're up. Everybody in between us actually here in between this turn does have their quarterback one. So that's a definitely a thing to monitor, to where we probably don't have to reach for a quarterback once we want one on the front side of the turn. We probably can wait until it's back around to us on this backside of this 6-pick turn. We can probably wait until, if we want a high-end quarterback, if we want to reach for this Dak Prescott, not reach, but if we want to take one in this range of the Dak Prescott, Justin Herbert, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, Kyler Murray is still the one that really stands out to me as an absolute value down here, all the way at pick 91 overall, that we could wait to see if he comes back to us in the 10th round. And I think that's the way we're going to play this one. See if we can get this Kyler Murray to stack with our Matthew Stafford stack of Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. I think that's the way we're going to play this one, but we've got 3 picks until we're back up. Running back and wide receiver is where we're going to be really looking here. Still hammering that one home as we do see this Evan Ingram and David Njoku range where I really like to get my tight end one along with Brock Bowers here in this turn. Looking back, we saw that they had all their quarterbacks in between this turn, but none of them have a tight end yet. So if I really want one, I could pick one at the front turn, but I don't want one that much because I have 3 guys that I still really like, and there's only 3 teams in between me. I'm gonna play the game where I don't think the tight end is picked. I'm gonna go back into the running back and wide receiver room, and I think we're gonna be leaning running back here. James Conner is definitely one that I really like. If I could pair him, even though it doesn't exactly correlate with a Kyler Murray, I do think that holds some upside. Austin Eckler, I think, would be the massive upside swing if I really wanted to go there on the bounce back year. Maybe he's in Los Angeles again with Jim Harbaugh. Maybe he's not. I'm actually going to go with it. I'm going to go against my grain. I've been taking James Conner in that position normally, but I'm going to go with Austin Eckler, who I think holds the most upside to return to that RB1 overall pick. And then if you're really thinking about it, putting a James Conner paired with a Kyler Murray, if we can do that coming back in round 10, I think that's probably the way that we're really looking for this one to go. We do see 2 of those tight ends go, though. I wasn't really looking at the Evan Ingram that came off before me, so I need to have, if I want this David Njoku pick, I need to have both of these guys not take a tight end in between their 2 turns pick. I'm not really concerned about Galt drafting another tight end, but I am worried about either Lame Dog or Chickens here taking a tight end on their turn because they don't have one yet. The scarcity is starting to dry up, and really once you get past this David Njoku, Jake Ferguson range, maybe you're still in on Kyle Pitts. I'm not exactly as much there, but it could be. I do think that's where you start to see the cutoff. TJ Hawkinson, I don't think is going to be healthy for most of the year. And then Dallas Goedert, Kmet, Schultz, I do think is a tier break there. Let's see if he pairs up a Dak Prescott with Jake Ferguson. I actually wouldn't mind that turn for Chickens in a 7-12-8-1 turn. I do like the Najee pick as well here. Do like the Najee pick from Koopa Troopa here as well. I do think that he has a massive upside with an Arthur Smith role. He's going to be that absolute hammer, kind of the Tyler Algier type that can actually still catch passes and be really efficient as well. That we did see take away a lot of touches in. Wow, quarterback off the board here is not what I saw coming. We had the Najee Harris pick go off of the board a little bit earlier, and I do think that's where I might have ended up picking up the Austin Eckler pick, but that leaves us back on the board here and sniped. What I said was I was not worried about Galt going back-to-back tight ends with Bowers and Njoku, and now I'm sitting here absolutely stunned, and I'm just going to reach a little bit to get the quarterback that I really love on the value of Kyler Murray, especially as we saw 3 quarterbacks go here an unfortunate turn from how I thought this was going to play out. If it played out into my favor, I could have gone James Conner here as well. Maybe we should have gone that way, really, just to secure that fourth overall quarterback. Najee Harris did go off here as I'm looking back at this board, but wouldn't have been able to get him there, as I did end up picking the Austin Eckler instead. So I really like the upside of that Najee Harris pick as well. Austin Eckler, I think, still has a higher upside ceiling than Najee Harris just because he's already a known paired with Jalen Warren. We don't know where Austin Eckler is really going to be. If he's back with this Jim Harbaugh team, I think that could be a really big upside swing for him compared to what it was with this Kellen Moore offense and other Brandon Staley, which was really just floundering on offense for most of the time, even though they have an elite quarterback with Justin Herbert. It's kind of upsetting how that offense is ran, but we do see Jake Ferguson come off the board as well, and that's going to really lean us into probably just, unless we can get a Kyle Pitts all the way back around on the other side, probably looking at just punting this tight end room and playing. I mean, we just brought up Koopa Troopa, but he's been touting this tight ends don't matter harder than almost anybody else. And in this type of format, we might just take like our last 3 picks at tight end. We might just go get that. Maybe Gerald Everett returns to the Rams, which I actually really like that thought, especially with the Sean McVay and with Tyler Higbee tearing his ACL and MCL. I don't think this is going to be a Davis Allen-led team, even though he's shown a little bit of upside at times. I don't think that's really where this team is going to go. Kyle Pitts already off the board as well. So we're really going to be struggling at tight end, and I'm not going to chase that here. The only one that I do actually like to chase a little bit more than probably the rest of the board is this Dalton Schultz. He's not on the team right now with the Texans, but I know that this team really does love Dalton Schultz. Being a Houston Texans fan, this team really centered around a lot of Dalton Schultz over the middle, and I do think that they find a way to bring him back, and I do think he's had one of his best homes with the Houston Texans as well. So I think if you can bring him back, if you're gonna vault up all these other guys of Nico Collins at like the 14th overall pick, Tank Dell at like the 3rd round pick, then why isn't Dalton Schultz also receiving the same amount of hype? Kmet and Schultz are still going to be those Koopa Troopas upside picks, and yes, I fully agree with both of those picks. I do really like both of those quarterbacks, or with both of those tight ends as my upside swings. And you know what? I think we're probably going to reach a little bit here. Don't know if we're going to reach a little bit here, although we do have both of these teams in between us. And this is kind of going back to that conversation we had on that last turn of what do these teams do whenever they don't have their tight end yet? We see this team with 3 quarterbacks. They've got 2 quarterbacks here with these teams in between us, and another 2 tight end team, but 2 teams without any tight end. It could be another run like we saw last turn where we see 3 tight ends go off the board in between us. And I think that's going to lean for me to go into this Dalton Schultz, Cole Kmet range and just try to get a little bit of a safety blanket, not punt it all the way, but whenever you're picking your first one in round 9, round 10, I think that's a punt enough. Now, do we play the swing? We've got all 3 of them here at the pick. If I find a wide receiver or running back that I really like in this range instead, I might go that way just to see if we don't have to reach on one and see if one comes back to us on the other side of the pick. Deontay, we already have Pickens, so we're not going there. Jacoby Myers would probably be the one. Hollywood has upside if he can stay healthy, but I don't see anything that's really standing out to me. So I'm going to take my number 1 tight end on the board, and that's going to be Dalton Schultz, and I'm going to be happy with what I'm getting there. We'll see what comes back to us on the other side, but now tight end's pretty much off the board unless I wanted to double tap, kind of like we saw with the last round of the quarterbacks being double tapped. Could go back into a double tap on the tight end, but don't think we're really going there. We're probably waiting one more round to see if this Matthew Stafford falls back to us. I don't want to reach to get this stack with Puka Nacua, with Cooper Kupp. It'd be awful if it did end up falling outside of that range, but we've still got 4 quarterbacks on the board before he really shows up. Not too worried there. We're going to lean back into the running back and wide receiver, and I think it's going to be one of my first rookie players that I take in a lot of these drafts, and that's going to be Troy Franklin. We don't know what his landing spot's going to be, but I know he has big play upside ability, and I think that's where we're going to go. If this board plays out the way that it's laid out in ADP, Galt already has his 4 wide receivers on his team. We can get our 5th here off the board, and that's exactly where we're going to go. We're going to lean into the rookie wide receiver, hope that he's maybe a first-round pick to the Kansas City Chiefs, to the Buffalo Bills, as a lot of people are laying it out right now. And we're going to go with the upside shot of Troy Franklin to be our wide receiver 5 on the board. Let's go back through the entire positions as we're laid out currently right now, hoping that Matthew Stafford or Cole Kmet make it back to us here on this next turn in the 11-12. We've got Kyler Murray, Jonathan Taylor, Rachaad White, Austin Eckler to anchor down that running back room. Puka Nacua, Mike Evans, Cooper Kupp, George Pickens, Troy Franklin to round out the wide receiver 5 that we really want to have as our locked and loaded top wide receivers to fill 3 wide receiver slots and then potentially 2 flex spots on a week-to-week basis. And then Dalton Schultz to be our tight end 1. Really like how this one is building out so far. And we can start to look back to our next pick coming up here in the 11th round, 129 overall off the board. And that's going to be exactly where our Matthew Stafford pick is going to lie if we were following this entire board by ADP and the rest of the league was trying to draft by ADP as well. Hopefully it lands back to us, and I think we're just going to sit back, watch this one go in, and see if this falls to us. Let's move this one up to the board wherever these picks are going off the board. We already have 3 quarterbacks of those 4, though, of those 4 that can go before Matthew Stafford comes off the board. Let's look to see. We've got 1 person with 0 quarterbacks now. We've got we've got 1 more. The pick before us, I can fully bet that is where Matthew Stafford goes. I'm just going to call it right now. I'm not even going to say anything more. We're just going to sit back, watch this one play out. Let's see if I can call this one right, that Matthew Stafford goes off the board right in front of us to snipe this entire stack with both Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. Just going to let it play out in the hands of the gods. And as we see, 4 quarterbacks off the board. Jaden Daniels up 2. What a run. I mean, this is just highly unfortunate, and it plays out perfectly. Honestly, we could see this one picked here, or Matthew Stafford pick here. Kirk Cousins going over him, though. Maybe this guy's thinking that Achilles is going to heal a little bit quicker than everybody else is going to think. Maybe he's back for the majority of the season. I don't mind a Kirk Cousins pick. He already said he is only actually like 3-4 months out. That would put him on track for the start of the season. Don't mind a Kirk Cousins pick either. I wish he was still on the board for me. If I could, potentially get a little bit of a still going off with no quarterback for Fatty Lumpkin. Dang. Jerry Jeudy's the pick instead. 5 more picks in the hands of the gods to see if we can hit the stack. All right, let's put a little bit of a backup plan in place because I do not have one at this time. I think it's got to be Cole Kmet, though. We can just really lock into 2 tight ends that I actually really do like. That's going to be the backup plan. A tertiary, I think that's the word. Tertiary backup plan, 3rd backup plan. Some people would probably rather call it. I don't really like the Jonathan Brooks pick. The ACL injury that he had doesn't put him on a good timeline to really have any participation throughout all of camp. So I'm not really going to put him up there if I'm looking at any rookie running back. Zamir White, if you think that Josh Jacobs is gone, but they've already talked about wanting to bring him back as long as they can work out the contract, I'm not really excited there. Honestly, if you're going to tell me that I could take anybody on the upside that they have the same role as last year, it'd be Jerome Ford, and they try to put their assets elsewhere and try to build up that team around a Deshaun Watson, see if they can put anything else. I don't think they really need to invest at that running back position with Nick Chubb coming back at some point in the offseason. 1 more pick, though, to see if it works out. 1 more pick. We hit the stack. Matthew Stafford, got to be the pick. Locking in the full Los Angeles Rams stack. Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp. Played out beautifully. Played out exactly as we wanted it to. Now we've got a really quick turn. We can't celebrate it too long because we're already back up here on the clock almost. Adonai Mitchell is another wide receiver that I really do like the upside of if I were going to go back to the rookie route, but I don't think I want to do that with 5 locked in wide receivers already. I'm pretty happy with that room. I do think we have a little bit more question marks in the running back room. That's probably where I'm going to lie. Jerome Ford. I could go with the Blake Corum, who I really do like as well. Khalil Herbert, Kendre Miller, Bucky Irving would actually be the running back that I'd like out of the rookies here if I was to pick any of them. But I'm going to hope that he can potentially, I mean, he's probably not going to. That's probably a pipe dream to say that he's going to flip around all the way to the other side. But I'm going to take the Jerome Ford here. Hope that he has his role. Hope that they just believe that Nick Chubb can come back and be healthy for them the rest of the season. But Jerome Ford, at least at the beginning of the season, I do think is really good play as long as they don't try to address that running back position elsewhere. I'm still a Jerome Ford guy. I was one last year whenever I was hyping up him to be one of those last round running back shots just in case it broke right. And it ended up breaking right. Last year, whenever Nick Chubb unfortunately went down and Jerome Ford was thrust in that role alongside Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt, though, I don't have really any upside or thought that he's going to be a contributor for much longer in this league. So we're going to see how this one plays back up. Yeah, going with a rookie running back. That's probably where I would have lied Koopa if I wasn't going back to the Bucky Irving. And truthfully, if I was to remake the pick, we probably would have just gone into the Bucky Irving. Blake Corum, as I'm going through the rookie running back process right now, we're probably going to see a rookie running back, top 10 rookie running backs that I have drop here in the next week or so. Honestly, Blake Corum, with the games that I've watched so far, and I need to go back and watch a couple more, didn't show as much as I really thought that he was going to show. He came into this process of just like my overall narratives is probably like RB1 instead of Jonathan Brooks just because of the injury. And honestly, right now, Bucky Irving's my RB1. It doesn't feel great. It doesn't feel great for the running back process overall. It doesn't feel great for the running backs that are coming in. But all these guys are probably going to be complimentary anyway. And if I had to pick one of these guys to take, it'd be Bucky Irving. So we'll see if he makes it all the way around back here to the 153 pick. And if he does, I don't think we have any question about who we're taking here, and it would be Bucky Irving. So we'll play another lottery sweepstakes game. Hopefully we can sit here, see if we get it right again, and not have another running back that we want, just like the Matthew Stafford one, not going off in front of us. We'll see if any of these teams, we got Fatty Lumpkin back on the board still here with 0 quarterbacks as he's about to make his pick. We got another team right in front of us, Chowder, still with 0 quarterbacks as well. And honestly, as we're sitting here with Kyler Murray and Matthew Stafford, I'm going to play on the upside of this game. And I'm going to say that we're probably not taking another quarterback throughout the entirety of this draft. We might take one more quarterback just to see, or one more tight end just to try to play for that flex range. But once you take over 2 quarterbacks, unless I'm really punting quarterbacks, I don't like to take 3. Because whenever you're playing that, you've got 2 automatic zeros on your bench each and every week. I'd much rather play the upside of saying that my quarterbacks are going to be healthy each week, that they're not going to land on the same bye week at this point of the offseason because we don't know where those bye weeks land. It's an absolute crapshoot at this point of the offseason, right? To really say that they're not going to do that they're going to be healthy throughout the entirety of the season, or at least that they're not going to be out the same game. But I'll take that upside swing at this point of the season and really lock into 2 quarterbacks that I think could be weekly starters and weekly top one or QB1 players and contributors for my team each and every week. Probably not touching the quarterback room for the rest of the draft. Let's see where we're at, though, in overall construction. We're at the 2-4-5-1. That gives us 12 players off the board, meaning we still have 8 picks to fill out the overall 20 that we need to fill out the entire roster. Where that leaves us, we've probably got another 2 tight ends to get us to 2 quarterbacks, 3 tight ends. And then that leaves us with another 6 picks in between running back and wide receiver. And that'll probably break down into 2 running backs to get us to 6 running backs overall. And then another 3 wide receivers to get us to a total of a 2-6-8-3 build. That's probably where this build is going to lie out. We'll see. Sometimes, something comes up on the board that's a little bit shiny, a little bit of that new toy that you could potentially take instead over another guy. But that's probably where this one is going to end up lying at the end of the day. But we've got a couple of picks up here. We got Bucky Irving still on the board. He's all the way down here at the bottom of this ADP as we're coming up with 2 picks left. Running backs, 3 for this team, 5 for Chowder, who really probably needs to lean into this quarterback at this point. I mean, you're leaning into Deshaun Watson, Geno Smith. You're starting to get to guys that may not even have jobs at this point. You probably need to be taking a quarterback here at this point of the draft. this isn't really where in the underdog drafts where I want to play replacement level quarterbacks, or at least both of my quarterbacks being replacement level. And he might have gotten sniped with one guy in front of him, with Geno Smith. Definitely where I'd be taking, okay, he takes Drake May, or Deshaun Watson was going to be the other one that I'd be suggesting for him. But don't mind the upside swing of a Drake May with the rookie, but that's not really the elite upside swing that I'm really wanting to take. And we did get lucky here. Coop was calling for it last round with going with the rookie running back, and I'm going to go with the rookie running back now of Bucky Irving to fill out this running back room with my fifth one off the board. Think all of these guys could have pretty solid roles going into 2024. And that leads us back into the turn, back into the 14th round pick here. There was a little bit of a potential for me to look at the Darren Waller if I wanted to lean into another tight end. But once you get to this point, Jatavian Sanders has been one that I know me and Chase both have really been targeting heavily in these underdog drafts so far. We really think that he's an undervalued asset whenever it will come to the NFL draft. Could see his value skyrocket in these drafts. Think he's really good here, but we're probably leaning back in a running back and wide receiver again. Wilson, Allen, Palmer, Douglas, Algier, maybe we go that way. We're probably just going to try to find an upside swing at the wide receiver, and I don't see one that's jumping out to me, unfortunately. So I think I'm just going to double back down into the rookie running back room. And yeah, we're going to double back down to the rookie running backs, and we're going to go with another Braylon Allen. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know, Koopa, what in the hell a QJ is doing all the way up here. I can't explain it other than he was a first round pick, and they're going to have hope and hype for him to come back at some point. Other than that, I can't tell you. I can't tell you why, other than he was a first round pick, because it doesn't make sense. Honestly, if you were going to tell me which one I'd rather have, I might honestly rather have a Josh Palmer. I think they're about the same player. It's unfortunate at this point with the capital that the Los Angeles Chargers invested into a QJ, but looking at all the rookie wide receiver metrics that we've seen come out over the past years, looking at what they did in the rookie season and where that projects going forward, I don't really understand that one either. I think he's about the same as Josh Palmer, and that'd be another guy that I'm going to definitely be targeting here as we are rounding out that 6 running backs off the board already. Looking at the last one, let's see, we got overall on the build 8, and then we got another 6 here, so we got 14 picks. That'll make us 6 left on the board, and that'll be 3 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, and another running back, actually. So it'll be a 2-7-8-3 build if we really go out that way. If we do have those 6 picks left on the board, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, 6 rounds. So that's probably where we're going to be leaning, is into that 2-7-8-3 build. Looking probably hit the tight end room here if the Josh Palmer does go off the board, and we're really looking up here at the rest of the wide receivers. Let's put a couple more of those guys on the board as well as we're here. I do honestly, as much as we just talked about QJ and the bust that QJ was, and we've seen now 2 years of bust in Treylon Burks, once we get down this far, and with what the Tennessee Titans have, the wide receiver room, I don't know how you don't see Treylon Burks a little bit higher, at least higher than Zay Jones, Devontae Walker, Trey Palmer, who are all going around him. I know the guy that just went off here, if old Ray GQ is probably watching this one, he's going to be screaming at me that I don't have Roman Wilson a little bit higher. I understand the upside. I understand that he was good at the Senior Bowl and everything, but still a little bit early for me without projected draft capital at this point to put him up that high. We do see Josh Palmer go off the board as well. So if I'm going to be looking at anybody in this range in the wide receiver room, I'm not going to go into a Marvin Mims. I'm not going to go into another rookie wide receiver of Xavier Legette, who I don't really have an understanding of what his projected draft capital is going to be at this point. Same with Devontae Walker either. Yeah, and I do agree with that one, Koopa, as well. At least he's playing as number two wide receiver instead of 4 off the board. It doesn't make much of any sense. And if D-Hop leaves that room as well, which I really think he could at the age of 31, 32 that he's at now, I don't think he has much of a reason to stay and could force his way out. And if the Tennessee Titans don't address wide receiver in the first round, Treylon Burks could still be the best wide receiver on that team. You just got to project a little bit of health for him, which I think has been his problem in the first couple of years in the league. Let's look back at the running back room just in case here. but I don't really see anything here that's going to stand out. We're going to lean into it. We're going to have a rookie at each of the running back, wide receiver, and tight end positions now. This is a pick that I've been making the entire time, all the way throughout the draft process, and that is with Jatavian Sanders. I think the upside is absolutely fantastic here with Jatavian Sanders. I don't know. There is definitely a separation between him and Brock Bowers, but it should not be where we have old Brock Bowers at. In pick 82 in round, I think that's like round 7, and we're here in round 15. I don't think that there's 8 rounds of difference between what Brock Bowers could potentially be and what Jatavian Sanders could potentially be. So I've been scooping up a bunch of Jatavian Sanders in all of these drafts. Unfortunately, Treylon Burks does go in between us as well. So that's going to put us back into looking at running back, wide receiver, and tight end to see where we're going to go to start rounding out the end of this draft. We do probably need to go back to that wide receiver room, though. Could we lean into Mike Evans leaving? We also already do have Rachaad White and Mike Evans on this team. Probably not where I'm looking to go. Into another Tampa Bay Buccaneer potentially. Have a little bit of an upside shot with Mingo if I wanted to go there. Jalen Hyatt, Corley, Yoshivas, Josh Reynolds. Actually, nope. We're going to go way out of order here, and we're going to go all the way to Noah Brown. Noah Brown, wide receiver 3 for the Houston Texans. And at one point of the offseason before Tank Dell was there, wide receiver 2 for the Houston Texans. He's a free agent this year, and I think he's going to command a lot more money than people think just because of his big playability. Now, again, kind of like we were talking about with Treylon Burks, has to stay healthy. But for a guy who I think was taken in the 7th round or was either a UDFA, a really big rise for Noah Brown, who's a fantastic wide receiver, big play, number 3 for a team. And I think whether he goes back to the Houston Texans and resumes that number 3 role or he goes elsewhere in free agency, he's a really good player that I think could be a number 3. He could be a guy that goes to like a team like the Tennessee Titans, who would have probably the cap space to pay him, who really need another wide receiver. He could easily be a much, much, much improved version of like a Nick Westbrook-Akeen for this team if he were to go there. Really like the upside shot of Noah Brown all the way down here in the 16th round. And it leaves us with a potential opportunity to circle back to another wide receiver that we were potentially going to have to take over him. Don't really care at this point of the draft. Once you start taking over ADP, do not really care. Once you see these names, the ADP is going to be so vastly different. I mean, you've got big play guys like Darius Slayton, Alec Pierce that I really like, both of those guys as well. Darnell Mooney's going into free agency, who could be a guy. Juwan Jennings, just because of one Super Bowl performance when he has not done anything, ran a 4.72 at the combine, has not done anything, is a blocking wide receiver, played well in the Super Bowl, and now he's up over here over a player who I honestly think is much better at that role than Allen Lazard even, especially if Aaron Rodgers is back and actually playing with the team, who has a connection with that guy, who could be their big blocking wide receiver, who's always had about 500, 600 yards in the season whenever he's been playing with Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, you can miss me with all that Juwan Jennings talk. You can miss me with a lot of the other rookie wide receiver upside shots. The Trey Palmer one we already talked through. Unfortunately, I just don't want to lean back into the Tampa Bay Buccaneers potentially wide receiver 3 while I already have their running back and their wide receiver 1 in Mike Evans if he does come back to the team. Don't really want to go there, but do like the upside of Josh Reynolds as well. Seeing here, I do like this name as well. This name brought back up to me here a couple days ago whenever I was looking through some stuff. Demarcus Robinson was a really good one that he was really came on, and he was getting like 10 targets a game whenever Cooper Kupp was a little bit banged up down the stretch, whenever he was really shining and turning on and playing over the Ben Skoranek, the Tutu Atwells of the team, really serving as a good wide receiver for that Los Angeles Rams team, and do think he could come back. Do we lean into another wide receiver after we already have Puka, after we already have Cooper Kupp? It's a little bit further, another Ram, and that's exactly what Koopa's saying here. Do we lean back into that again? I don't know if we do that as much. So we're probably going to go into this guy that I really like of Hunter Henry here all the way down. He's a free agent this year, could re-sign with the New England Patriots. But we see each and every year that Hunter Henry is just one of those guys that just catches touchdowns. He probably only gets 30 yards a game, but he has the upside to catch 2 touchdowns each and every game, almost everywhere he's been. Just a overall undervalued guy in almost every format because he really does give you replacement value. It's only in spike weeks, typically only in spike weeks, but he can always catch 1-2 touchdowns a game. That's probably where we're going to go to round out this third tight end room and finish out the tight ends, not have to worry about it anymore. We'll just take a quick look down the board, see if there's anything else on here. Chig would be the only other one that I'd even think about leaning into if I wasn't going to go Hunter Henry here, though. And that's going to be the pick. Hunter Henry to round out the tight end room. And we're going to have, let's see, 3 picks left on the board. We've got the quarterback room locked down. We've got the tight ends locked down. That just leaves us running back and wide receiver to really finish out the rest of this draft. We've got 4 guys at the wide receiver that I do really like here on the board. I'm also just going to put on there, just in case, if it's like a last round pick, another Ram, but don't really mind leaning back into another Demarcus Robinson. If it's like my 20th pick off the board, I can go really heavy on the Rams running backs or on the Rams wide receivers because I don't have one of their running backs. But let's see where we're at here with 3 picks left, probably 1 running back, 2 wide receivers to really finish off the rest of this draft. Let's get the quarterbacks and tight ends out of here, focus in on our running backs and wide receivers, and let's see where this one plays out the rest of the way. A.J. Dillon, a guy that I really like in the running back room. I've been taking a lot of Ezekiel Elliott because I do think he's just incredibly undervalued for the role that he looked pretty good with a pretty bad New England Patriots team last year. So I think this pick, we're going to go back into that running back room and we're going to pick between Ezekiel Elliott, A.J. Dillon. Both of them kind of serve the same exact role. They're really just probably plotters for the most part. But if they land in a right situation, the New England Patriots offense gets a little bit better if Zeke does re-sign. I think Zeke holds a little bit more upside if he can stay healthy for one more year. If he goes to a good spot, A.J. Dillon, I just don't really want to play the full free agency game that he really represents. I know Ramondre could be back with the Zeke Elliott as well, but I'm going to lean into Zeke here, and I think he could go back to New England Patriots. Both of these guys are just absolute grinders. You probably don't have as much upside, but at the running back 7 on the team, I don't really care all that much. I'll just take the Ezekiel Elliott that has been very good to us throughout all of the fantasy seasons that we've been playing with him. I'll lean into one more year that Zeke can potentially stay healthy and give me a couple weeks as a spot start running back here as my running back 7 off the board. Do not mind that at all. Let's take A.J. Dillon off, though, as we really are just looking at 2 more wide receivers to round out the rest of this room. A.T. Perry, not as much as I did love A.T. Perry pre-draft process last year, not a guy that I'm really looking into going for. Did I pick up the wrong Demarcus Robinson? I don't know who I put on the board, or maybe I missed the star. Demarcus Robinson, will put him on the star list, though. Anything else here that we're going down the board for? Kendrick Bourne, I actually do really like. I think his timeline on his ACL is actually a little bit ahead of the start of the season, and he was performing very well with a very awful and absolute crap New England Patriots team. So he's a free agent as well. Could go back to the Patriots. Could be a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 for another team. So do like Kendrick Bourne here as well. Going down a little bit further on the board, KJ Osborne, another free agent that I think is going to probably deserve a little bit more money than a lot of people are going to think in the free agent market, because the free agent class, if the tags do play out as we really expect them to right now, could be a little bit higher. I'm not, and then we get to a point where I'm not even really looking at any of these guys anymore. Maybe like a Justin Watson, but if they address one wide receiver position, Justin Watson probably gets kicked out to the outside of the KC offense. And you get down to the guys like Greg Dortch, Isaiah Hodgins. I like the guys that we have on the board here with the big playability, the Darius Slayton, the Alec Pierce to really round out the wide receiver 7, wide receiver 8 of this team. Josh Reynolds, I'll even put a little bit above Darnell Mooney. KJ Osborne up here if we really want to sort all these. Kendrick Bourne probably slotting in here. Demarcus Robinson probably the last of all these guys to come off. Let's sit back. Let's enjoy the draft. Let's figure out where this lies as it comes back to us here at the 19th overall pick. Pretty quick turn, so we'll be waiting here to see what we have left of the wide receiver room until we do get back up here at the 19th overall pick. Brandon Rice, rookie USC. Son Jerry Rice coming off the board. 6 picks between us, 7 picks between us until we really come up here. Let's see, just in case of like ADP, we do have a lot of our guys in this top of the ADP. I would really love to finish out this one with Darius Slayton and Alec Pierce, though. Those are probably 2 of my big play upside guys that normally don't come off the board here. Josh Reynolds, I do like Josh Reynolds, my A&M guy, A&M flag hanging over the shoulder, but if they do anything else, the wide receiver room, which I do think that they could really use a second wide receiver because Jameson Williams ain't it. He's a good playmaker, but he can't catch the football. So if you can't catch the football, you probably need somebody else on that team to catch the football outside of a Josh Reynolds. Probably not where I'm going. We do see Alec Pierce come off the board here. One of the guys we were really looking at, Darius Slayton's that last one with that big play upside ability that I would really like to see fall here. Another couple of picks. Jaquan Jackson, I believe. Yeah, Jaquan Jackson coming off the board as well. I'm just not looking at any of these wide receivers at this range. Like you're looking at wide receiver, at least the rookie wide receivers that are potentially these are guys that could go undrafted, or they could go in the 6th, 7th round, and they could be the wide receiver 5 on a team. You could be drafting in Andre Yoshivas of the Cincinnati Bengals, and it's literally just a dud 0 on your team the entire time. Not really where I'm wanting to put my money, or at least my capital, even if it is the 19th, 20th pick overall. Not really where I'm wanting to go. You could hit, I guess, on that Puka Nacua that we're now drafting in the first. We're drafting in the first round. He's a thumbnail guy. You could hit that, but that's probably a 1 in about 1,000 chance out of all of these guys that are going to be picked in this range over the next 10 years. Probably not where I'm going to try to land my next dart throw hit. Rather just takes the upside of Darius Slayton that'll go probably catch a couple of 60-yard bomb touchdowns throughout the year, and I'll just be happy that I got that. So let's see if he falls here. We got 2 picks in front of us. Both of them have 7 wide receivers. We'll get a 2-7-8-3 build to really round this one out. One more pick takes Bo Nix off the board, which does leave us a Darius Slayton to finish that one out. And then we got 4 more wide receivers to really figure out which one we want to take here. If I was to order them, honestly, I'd take the upside shot that Kendrick Bourne could be healthy. 2 of them just came off the board here, so we've really only got Kendrick Bourne or KJ Osborne to wrap out this one to get us to this 2004 pick to round out the rest of the draft. Alexander Madison, Izzy Abanikanda, though, go off the board. Chris Rodriguez as well. Honestly, names that could fill in at running back pretty easily. Alexander Madison, man, that's got to be a fall from grace. He had to be taken in like the 4th, 5th round of drafts last year, comparatively to where he was going last year to being in the 19th round this year. That's an absolute fall from grace. Michael Thomas, our guy Cooper in the chat, just put it up. Michael Thomas and OBJ, if they could stay healthy at their old age, do think that that's an upside shot, but I'm going to lean back in to Kendrick Bourne. If he can be healthy coming off that ACL, we did see him really performing well at times during the offseason or during this 2023 season until he had the injury in a absolute crap offense. I do think whether he returns or if he goes elsewhere, he could be pretty good for 2024 as well. And that rounds us out with the 2-7-8-3 build. Let's run through the draft one more time for y'all before we get on out of here. It's Kyler Murray, the falling quarterback that I think is a little bit undervalued in the ranks, paired with Matthew Stafford, who is going to be our stack quarterback for this roster build. Jonathan Taylor, Rachaad White, Austin Eckler to be our anchor running backs, paired up with Jerome Ford, the rookie running backs of Bucky Irving and Braylon Allen, and then followed up with the old age crusty vet that we all love on the TFDR show and the Overreaction Pod of Ezekiel Elliott. It's going to be followed up with the wide receiver room of Puka Nacua, Mike Evans, Cooper Kupp, both of them in the Los Angeles Rams stack with the Matthew Stafford. Mike Evans is going to be there as well that we already talked about. George Pickens, Troy Franklin as our one rookie wide receiver, upside swing shot, see if he falls into the right system, into the right landing spot. Guy that has absolute massive big play upside availability with his elite speed. Then it's going to be followed up by another big play wide receivers, a couple of big play wide receivers of Noah Brown and Darius Slayton, and then the upside swing shot of Kendrick Bourne. Dalton Schultz, Jatavian Sanders, the last rookie that we have on this roster, and Hunter Henry rounding out the last of the draft. Let's see if we have anything more here from Koopa before we get to the very end of this and wrap this one on out of here. Until we see y'all back again for probably the next video on the docket will be my top 10 running backs in the 2024 rookie class. It's an absolute crapshoot, but we do see here that Kendrick Bourne's got a lot of upside here, being fast, big play, Patriots risky. does have a lot of potential to miss a little bit of camp with that ACL, but he is also a free agent. So even if he does go back to that Patriots system, he has the potential to go elsewhere. Um, we already went through the draft. I don't think there was really any picks that I would rather go back and just make anything else. So I don't think there's really anything else to break down with this one. Don't know if that's a winner team or not. Think it's very much just a mid solid team, probably relying a good bit on what that Los Angeles Rams stack looks like going into 2024. It was good for us in 2023. Can it continue one more year? I think it can. If those quarterbacks of Kyler Murray and Matthew Stafford stay healthy, I think that team has a pretty good upside shot. Running backs have to stay healthy as well because we're a little bit weaker there than a lot of teams like to build. But I like to build on that upside swing shot of the running backs being healthy and then my two rookie running backs being hits in the rookie class in 2024 in those first couple of weeks, or at least down the stretch if one of our running backs does take an injury. But that's going to be it for me for this underdog draft with Puka Nacua perfectly lining up with the thumbnail as well. Absolutely love it. And so we'll see you here next time on the Fantasy Draft Room.